angels and seraphs, and welcome to my channel. I'm Artemis, and today, as you saw in the title, we're trying random aesthetics on my persona. And since I got a little too inspired by some aesthetics, I decided to use them to create movie concepts. If you haven't seen my first video, there I talked about my persona's lore more in depth. But basically, the only thing you need to know for this video is that Artemis, or Willow, is a celebrity in her world. She's a model, singer, and actress. I wanted to create a persona that would allow me to experiment different styles and aesthetics, because, to be honest, sticking to one thing isn't my thing. But anyways, I picked random aesthetics again because I'm indecisive, but also I wanted to reinterpret them. So let's take the styles into our cards and let's dress up. So for the first aesthetic, we got Acid Pixie. About the aesthetic, I'm gonna be honest. For this one, I had trouble figuring out what to do. The end result looks more like a flower hippie aesthetic rather than acid pixie. I couldn't find many information for this aesthetic, but this precious website that I'll link in the description helped me a lot. Anyways, here's what I could gather. The acid pixie aesthetic is characterized by trippy visuals, occultist and satanic imagery. The depiction of hallucinations and drugs is also a major theme. Its color palette is centered around neon colors and black. Some key character traits associated with this style are a mischief, a rebellious spirit, and a deep connection to nature. As for fashion, here are some popular options that I implemented in Artemis's design. I was so happy because this style allowed me to play around with colorful hair colors. Also, mushrooms are a recurrent symbol. I also gave her chunky earrings and an oversized t-shirt, and also knee-high socks and chunky bracelets. Okay, now for the fun part about the movie. So here's the pitch. Two inseparable best friends take part in a highly competitive fashion contest, and only one of them can win. I imagine this to be Willow's first big movie, as she plays one of the main characters. She plays the role of Trina, the jealous best friend. Trina's character is really attached to her best friend Brittany. They have been besties since childhood, and as far as they can remember, their dream has always been to create their own brand. Brittany is the only one who supports her, since her father is never home and her mother wants her to have a more stable and studious life. But on the other hand, Trina can't help but be envious. Brittany's mother is a famous designer. The truth is that Brittany's mother puts too much pressure on her daughter and obliges her to be the best at everything. When she finds the competition announcement in a magazine, Trina thinks that is the solution to all her problems. The contest opens the doors to the best fashion school. By winning the competition, she can prove to her mother that she's serious about becoming a fashion designer. She's about to call Brittany, but tells herself that if her best friend also decides to participate, she won't have a chance. She then decides not to call her. However, a few seconds later, Brittany calls her to announce that she has seen the contest announcement. Trina is a bit embarrassed and ashamed, because contrary to her best friend decided to inform her. The two girls decide to participate. They know they will have to compete against each other, but they promise they will stay best friends no matter the outcome. However, seeing that Brittany's designs for the first part of the contest seem way better than hers, she sabotages her best friend on an impulse. she immediately regrets it though. And since Trina can't lie to her best friend, Brittany discovers soon enough who is the cause of her misfortune. From this moment on, war is declared. They don't stop stabbing each other in the back. Even when Trina's sister and Brittany's brother try to talk some sense into them, they continue to sabotage each other until they completely ruin the competition and end up being disqualified. Finally, as they are waiting for the bus together, the two girls tell each other some home truth. Trina admits her jealousy, and Brittany talks to her about the pressure her mother puts on her shoulders. The two girls forgive each other. Then they decide to work on projects together to create their own brand, just like they planned to do when they were kids. And all's well that ends well. So this was highly inspired by late 1980s and 2000s rom-com and teen movies. I don't particularly have memories of that period. I think I was too young. I just vaguely remember some movies like Juno, Freaky Friday, and Cowbells. But I don't know why. This kind of film makes me nostalgic, and I would really like people to make more of them. Anyways, I started watching movies from that time for a while now, and I never get tired of them. I just love these types of movies, and for this story I was inspired by The Devil Wears Prada, which I need to rewatch. And also I watched the Bratz movie recently. I found it silly, but that's exactly the vibe I'm into. Anyways, this outfit is finished. What do you think? Do you like the style? On to the next aesthetic. So, lightning. Since this aesthetic is centered around a specific meteorological phenomenon, I couldn't find anything. So basically I just went with the flow, and my brain immediately thought about a lightning superhero for some reason. And also Jay from Ninjago. Love you. Then I thought, what else can I add? Well, maybe she's also a guitarist, because, you know, lightning, electric guitar. I don't know, it made sense in my head. So for this aesthetic, I thought it would be better to make a short series rather than a movie. I don't know. That could be an idea, I don't know. Anyways, in this story, Will embodies Claire Thor, a young promising guitarist and singer. Claire is a bit arrogant, just what it takes to succeed. A little too energetic, according to some, but it's just to hide the fact that she feels empty. The guitarist has been playing in a rock band since she was a teenager. They have already been spotted by a manager and already have a rather solid fan base, but that's not enough for them though. The band wants to play on the biggest stage of the city, the roller coaster. And they are lucky because they are selected for the music festival concert. So Claire and her friends are over the moon. It's a golden opportunity for them. All the great musicians who start in their city perform at the roller coaster before becoming famous. Nonetheless, one evening as they train at the local concert hall, Claire is discreetly approached by a huge producer, offering her a job as a solo singer and songwriter. On one hand, she thinks that it can be beneficial for her career, but she doesn't want to abandon her friends. They created this group together when they were teenagers just for fun, and she doesn't want to lose that. But she made her decision. She prefers her career over friendship. She announces to her friends that their next concert will be their last. She argues with them, but they end up accepting her decision, hoping that she won't regret it. For the day of the concert, a beautiful sun is announced. Nevertheless, a huge storm appears instead. Since the stage is outdoors, people start to leave. The concert is cancelled, but Claire doesn't want to hear anything. She must do this last concert. Her friends don't follow her, but she still gets on stage and plays the electric guitar. She is then hit by the thunder. Then, the good news is that she's not dead. The bad one is that she doesn't wake up in the hospital, but in an entirely clean room with a huge window overlooking a kind of lab where men and women in white blouses seem to do tests. She's attached to a metal chair and seems to be connected to a machine. She panics, and at the same time as her, the machine goes crazy. That is until a woman in a white blouse and a man dressed in black arrive. Claire recognizes the man. He is a superhero, Blaze, the man who survived the fire. The woman explains to Claire what is happening to her. She is very lucky. It turns out that she has a rare substance in her blood which, when excited by an enormous quantity of a specific element, here electricity, allows her to reproduce this element. Blaze asks her to make a choice. Either she becomes a superheroine and learns to master her powers, or she stays in the lab so that scientists find a way to take away her powers so that she's not a hazard to society. Reluctantly, Claire chooses to become a trainee. She must, however, juggle between her life as a rising solo celebrity and a superheroine. Blaze thinks she won't finish her training before at least 2 years, but Claire is determined to prove him that she will do it in a month. As a result, she botches everything and messes everything up each time. Blaze first teaches her how to use her power through weapons to avoid losing control, but she feels like she's getting nowhere and has several times the urge to give up. Blaze always finds a way to motivate her by telling her that at this pace, she will never have finished in a month. On the other hand, in her new studio, her producer gives the song she wrote to another singer and forces her to sing something that doesn't resemble her. Claire talks to Blaze about her job and the latter advises her to leave. But Claire refuses to give up. Being a celebrity is her dream. Forced to be constantly solicited, she ends up thinking she no longer has a passion for music. She is fired because she spoke badly to her manager and because supposedly she takes nothing seriously and she's cocky, arrogant, whatever. Blaze asks her several times if she wants to rest, but Claire just wants to finish with this training and get back to her singing job. In reality, she is exhausted and also angry with Blaze, who makes her work again and again. Actually, she's angry with herself because, if anything, she got worse with her powers. One day, Blaze orders her to get some rest, but that irritates Claire so much that she almost destroys part of the city out of rage. She then feels guilty and makes the decision to remove her powers because she thinks that they are draining her too much. She goes to the laboratory, but eventually she realizes that her powers are part of her and that she should treat them as a strength rather than something to fix. She realizes that it is not her powers that tire her, but the fact that she doesn't take care of herself and that she doesn't take her needs into account. Claire chooses to keep her powers and learn how to use them by being patient with herself. She hasn't given up on music, by the way. She went back to see her band who suggested she come back. She accepted because it is with them that she feels the most inspired. And so, for this story, I think I was inspired by Dispatch, the video game. Okay, so When I like something, I tend to rewatch it again and again until I'm bored. So, games with choices like that are heaven for me. I've watched gameplays on YouTube, I think 3 or 4 times, I don't remember. I'm still not bored. I just love the characters and the relationships they have. I have rarely seen action stories where the relationships and characters are that good. The same goes for Ultraman Rising. I think I've watched it a bunch of times too, but it was 2 or 3 years ago, so I need to rewatch it. What I liked here was that the main character struggles because he has to be a celebrity, a superhero, and a father at the same time. I like the fact that the plot wasn't only centered around defeating an enemy who is very, very bad. Anyways, we're finished with the design. Now, Dragon Core. Here is what I could find for this aesthetic. Dragon Core was really popular around the 2010s along with Crow Core, Goblin Core, and Witch Core. It centers around the respect of nature and its beauty. It also has this elegant and refined vibe. Dragons tend to collect shiny trinkets and treasures, such as gemstones, coins, and jewels. Some values associated with this aesthetic are wisdom, strength, power, and independence. Dragon Core heavily respects the balance between the beauty and the uglier side of nature, such as dim and dark lightning, fire, and messiness. For my Sona's redesign, I was more inspired by the Air Dragon. Its key colors are blue, gray, and white, and recurrent clothing items are flowing capes, lightweight clothing, and lace, which will be the first outfit's principal fabric. So, for this concept, I wanted to do it in a completely different style because why not? Anyhow, actually, I was in my Dragon Core era when I was like 13 or 14. I was really into fairy tales, so I created my own story and took inspiration from this anime. I thought it was a good occasion to rewrite it completely. So, if I remember well, my protagonist, Estrella, was an ancient dragon princess who was sealed in some crystal because her country was at war or something like that. She also had 2 big sisters, one evil and one kind. I don't remember. This thing is totally fuzzy in my mind. And since I never wrote what I had in mind, well, I don't have any memory of this story. Anyway, Estrella was discovered a gazillion years later by twin dragons, Dia, who was an ice dragon, and Iro, who was a fire dragon. Since Estrella has no memories, Dia and Iro decide to take her to their guild. And yeah, I don't think there really was a plot, or I don't remember it. I think they would just go on adventures, and eventually Estrella meets her evil big sister and becomes evil for some reason, but that's about it. So now I'm going to try to make some more sense of the title, which was Dragonheart, and I also found that it was already the title of a movie, so now I have to watch it. I think this story would be like the adaptation of a dark fantasy novel. I want it to be dramatic and romantic at best. Anyways, let's start the lore. Humans and dragons have always lived in harmony. Dragons use their powers to help humans. The latter, for their part, help the dragon with their technological prowess. However, humans fear that the dragons, through their omnipotence, might one day decide to enslave them. Humans have turned the problem all over the place. There is no way to beat a dragon. Nevertheless, an ambitious noble, Count Leon, has a theory. Their hearts must be the source of their powers, since the only thing that remains intact when they grow too old is their heart. He immediately asks to see the king, but no one wants to hear anything because Count Leon was a man known for his madness. He then decides to set a trap for the dragons himself. He marries his son to Princess Estrella, claiming that it could ease tensions between dragons and humans. In this story, Willow embodies Estrella, the young and kind dragon princess. She thinks that being the most selfless possible would make her a good person. Estrella has a virtuous older half-sister, Sol, who always teaches her that being mean and selfish only makes you lose your heart little by little. Sol thinks that she's the most perfect being in the world, which irritates Luna, Estrella's other big half-sister. Luna is filled with bitterness since her mother was executed. She often warns her little sister, "It is the people to whom you give too much who will take your heart." Estrella never really listens to Luna, thinking she's just self-absorbed. She always looks up to Sol though, but actually, Luna really cares about her sister. She just wants to protect her. When Estrella's wedding is announced, Luna tells her she doesn't approve of it. She thinks it's weird that they won't marry them so promptly. Estrella once again ignores Luna since Sol tells her that by marrying this human, she could get closer to achieve world peace. She then marries Count Leon's son for the good of her people. The marriage is filled with laughter and joy, but not for the reasons Estrella thinks. At night, Leon's son stabs Estrella to take her heart. The young dragon falls into a long sleep, which fills the entire castle with snow and makes white roses grow. To the humans, it's a miracle. They not only managed to beat a dragon, but now they are also able to use her powers thanks to her heart. Humans then declare war on dragons. The latter, as peaceful creatures, initially refused to fight. But with the heart of a princess in his possession, Count Leon manages to enslave most of them. For 10 years, Count Leon, who is now the king, as well as the other humans, continue to gain power. Estrella wakes up after these 10 years, her heart half repaired. However, she lacks part of her sensitivity, which makes her values fragile. She's still trying to hold on to the values that Sol instilled in her. She also remembers her husband's cruelty. She tries to forgive him, but she believes she needs the other half of her heart to do so. She therefore leaves the castle on a quest to find her heart. As she goes to the city, the Inquisition threatens to arrest her, to put her in a dungeon, probably to enslave her. But a figure dressed in a cape with a hood appears to injure all the gods to death. It's Luna! Estrella is horrified by what Luna has done and does not seem to recognize her sister at first. Estrella tries to heal the humans, but it's too late, and her powers are weak now. Luna offers her little sister to join the rebellion she founded to find her heart. But Estrella judges her sister and rejects her, telling her that she will never let her heart be filled with hatred. Luna has a little hearty laugh and replies that they are only defending themselves. But Estrella retorts that killing won't make anything better. Luna ends the conversation by saying that Sol, along with many other dragons, died trying to fight war with peace. She leaves, telling Estrella that if she ever want to join, she would be where the castle used to be. Estrella tries to suppress her sadness. She decides to get closer to Leon by becoming a slave. She then works for a Marquess and a Marchioness. The latter possesses the heart of a fire dragon. Estrella hides the fact that she's a princess to avoid any suspicion. Lady Dia spends most of her time in her room in the library. She remains cold with Estrella, but at least she is more tender than her husband, who is a huge asshole. He mistreats the dragon who served them and abuses his powers. One evening, though, Estrella finds Lady Dia silently crying in the garden. She quickly hides her tears and orders Estrella to go away, but the dragon sees the lady's wounds. Burns. Estrella does not ask her what the cause of her injury is. She does what she can to heal her, but her heart hurts each time she uses her powers. She ends up exhausting herself completely, but manages to make it all disappear. Lady Dia is stunned. This dragon is not supposed to have a heart. So, how is that possible? She decides nevertheless to keep Estrella's secret. After that, Estrella and Lady Dia spend more time together, without ever speaking with words during the day, to avoid Lord Hero being angry with one or the other. So, when Lady Dia reads in the library, Estrella pretends to dust it off. Then, when night falls, and once the Lord is asleep, they meet in the garden. Just by coincidence, of course. Gradually, they end up becoming friends. Or more. They talk about lighter topics like literature and science, but also heavier topics. Estrella feels safe enough to share her past. This time, the two women were in their usual spot. Lady Dia asks Estrella, why does she always help her with her wounds? Estrella replies that it's because with her, her heart seems to heal. So, she would give her everything. The dragon says that she never wants to leave her side. Lady Dia then begs her to run away with her. She wants to have the most perfect life with her. Estrella agrees without any hesitation. But it's at that moment that the husband chooses to go after them. He refuses to let what belongs to him slip from his hands. He uses his flames on his own wife. Estrella, to protect Lady Dia, ends up deploying her full powers and kills Lord Hero. The dragon gets closer to Dia. She tells her lover that everything will be fine, that she's going to heal her wounds. Estrella uses her powers, but she is weaker now. She used all her energy to kill Lady Dia's husband. She cannot save the one she loves. The two women kiss each other goodbye. Lady Dia asks Estrella to remain the kind dragon she has always been. But something breaks in Estrella. It's like she lost her heart again, and for good this time. She leaves the mansion to find her sister and join the rebellion. So, that would be the end of the first movie. But I also have a few ideas for the sequel, hence the edgy armor. So, in this one, Estrella doesn't want to face the fact that she's a murderer. She needs to believe that she's still selfless and perfect. So, she convinces herself that she killed Lord Hero to protect Lady Dia. She now wants to follow Luna's advice. She ends up killing more and more people, thinking she must do it because it's the only way to achieve world peace. She defeats King Leon and assassinates him, but she no longer needs any heart to use her powers. She believes that having one will only bring her pain and misery. She then destroys her own car and takes Leon's place on the throne. She becomes the cruel queen that everyone fears. Luna tries to talk some sense into her, telling her that she can't be cruel just to be cruel. Estrella asks, "Isn't this what you wanted?" But Luna replies, "You misunderstood. I just advised you not to let others be more important than your own safety and well-being." And then, well, maybe you'll get the end in 2050. Anyhow, so it's not really an inspiration for this story, but I'm still gonna talk about it briefly. A Midsummer Night's Dream. Okay, hear me out. This movie is literally magical. I don't care that it's old, it's just so charming. I think it's even one of my favorite movies. I've also watched The Neverending Story recently and I fell in love. So if you have any movie recommendations in that style, please tell me. So this one is a little different from the others, as you can see. I wanted to make illustrations rather than character concepts. I think it turned out pretty good. What do you think? And with that, this is the end of this video. It took forever to make. I actually wanted to make this my first video, but it took longer than I imagined. Whatever, I really hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in another video. Until then, have a nice day or night.